Hello, good evening, and welcome to another Tea Room Show.
And today we have a very special guest for you. It's RJ Brewer from Fratello Watches, the creator of Speedy Tuesday, the founder of Fratello Watches. Without further ado, let's bring in RJ. You've brought a few pieces to show us and talk us through.
Pooh, you expect me perhaps to start with a Speedmaster, so let's do that.
Yeah, Speedy.
Why not? Yes.
I brought my second Snoopy. It's the Snoopy from 2015. It's the 45th anniversary model. It has the enamel case back with the sterling silver, how do you say in English? Lapel pin?
Yes.
Lapel, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a reproduction of the original lapel pin that were flown and were given to staff and contractors from NASA who did something extraordinary. So Omega did something extraordinary during Apollo 13 by saving the astronauts' asses. And so they got this pin in 1970 and a certificate. And this is a reproduction of the pin that they received. And the pin is still being given today as they were flown originally. Not this one, of course, but the original ones. They were flown, then handed out. So a lot of people who got that pin also wanted to have that first Snoopy that came out in 2003. Because they wanted to have something that was similar. They got it while there was a Snoopy on the dial. But when that first model came out in 2003, a lot of people thought, hey, that's stupid, a cartoon on a luxury watch, and it doesn't make any sense. And so that watch was in the displays for years at the time. And I think their marketing was not as strong as it is today. Their storytelling skills were not as strong as it is today. And that changed with this watch. But because with this watch, they really got the story out. And then there was a huge run. And I think it was the first Omega that really led into this whole craziness for the limited edition and also for scalpers to invest in this watch and so on. But I'm happy that I have one. I have number 13. I thought it's nice. I collect number 13. So in this case, it's also Apollo 13. So that's cool. And on the case back, I made it worthless. You can't see it, but I can. Perhaps you see a little bit scratches in there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the name of Apollo 16 astronaut and the backup astronaut for Apollo 13, Charlie Duke. And Charlie Duke was at one of our events, and I gave him a diamond like a scratch pen, and I asked him to scratch his name in the case band of this watch. And he did. He asked, are you sure? I said, yes, please do it.
Wow.
So he scratched his name in the case band of the watch, and super nice. So that's my watch. Unsellable, I guess, but I love it.
So just one thing, RJ, on the Snoopies, just quickly as well. I'm not don't want to take too much of your time on this. How in your collection of Speedmasters, where does it rank in the Snoopy, any Snoopy edition, in terms of just the oldest or the nicest?
I only have two Snoopies with me, so I have also the later one, the 2021.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice because it has the automaton on the case back, the animation, a link to the chronograph seconds hand. But if I have to choose, it's this one. I don't know exactly why. I think mainly because also of the case back. It's so nice with the enamel blue and the silver sprinkles as stars, and then the silver pin. I think that's just very cool. And I think the later one is a little bit more gimmicky, perhaps. It's really well done, super nice, silver dial, blue subdials, beautiful. But I think if I need to choose, I don't have to choose, but if I need to choose, it's the one for me. And the first one was just a normal Speedmaster with a little Snoopy patch at 9 o'clock. And on the case back, there was like a color graphic of the Snoopy patch, basically. I have all three, and I cherish all three, but if I need to pick, it's the second one.
The 45th. Okay, Thank you.
And a super quick question from my side. How did you manage to track down the number 13?
I think I was the first one to order it worldwide.
Wow.
I saw it under embargo, so I knew it was coming. And then during Basel World 2015, the day before opening, so it opened for the public. There was press day on Wednesday, was also always press day, so only for journalists. And then on Thursday, it would officially open. And then you had the first appointments and so on and so on. But on that Wednesday evening, on the press day, there was a big party and a release party for Omega's Globemaster at the time, the watch that I'm actually wearing. And then today's CEO came to me, Reynald Ashleyman, and then he was vice president of sales. And he said, "Oh, what do you think of the collection? What do you think of the Globemaster?" I said, "I love the Globemaster because I also collect constellations, so I love the constellation, and love the Pipan. It really is really an awesome watch. But I love that Snoopy, and I want to buy one." And he said, "Okay, which number?" I said, "Number 13." And I said, "You got it." So that was the first order, because the real orders came in only the next day, basically. So it was more or less of a pre-order luck that I had. And I missed out on the Apollo 11 45th that came out a year earlier, the titanium one with the Sedna gold bezel. And I was just too late. I asked Omega, the local team here, said, "I want to have that watch and I want to order it. It's not about discount, whatever. I pay full price, all fine, but I want to have that watch." And I didn't get it in the end. I said, that is not going to happen to me a second time. So I was really pushy with this one. And it helped in the end. Yeah.
Excellent. No, thank you for sharing.
Excellent.
So watch number 2, right?
Yeah, number 2, please.
Let's... I will stick to Omega for now. It's the last one of the 4. And I don't have it on a strap here. I don't know why, actually. It was just in my box. It's an X33. It's the first generation, which came out in 98. This one is from 98. It's one of the very first, because it was given to a Dutch astronaut who did the official presentation at the European Space Agency here in the Netherlands for Europe. And he did basically the presentation or introduction for this watch for Omega at the time. And he got this watch during or after that presentation that he could keep or was gifted. And he was a space shuttle astronaut in the 80s. So he didn't wear this watch in space. Let me make that very clear. He wore a Seiko in space. I don't know the number from the top of my head, but digital watch. And if you turn the bezel, it changed function. I also have one of those.
Of course.
But he actually, because I was in touch with him, because of that Seiko that he wore, there was a super friendly guy. And for me, it was a childhood hero, because he was in space in 85 when I was a kid, and it was on television, and we talked in school about it. And so he was kind of like a local hero to me. So it was already a lot of fun that he reached out to me a couple of times, and I reached out to him to talk about watches. And then he also reached out to me to talk about this watch, for example, but also to his son had a Speedmaster that he got from him, basically. And he didn't know what it was, so he gave it to his son. And that was the Speedmaster Alaska 3 watch from 78 that Omega issued to NASA for the Space Shuttle mission. And that watch was actually the inspiration for the first PD Tuesday watch. But that watch is, it's a NASA property, so I can't say much about it. But he also had this watch, this X33, and the astronaut passed away, but I was still in touch with his son. And at some point, his son said, "Man, I don't use this watch. I have the Seiko that he actually wore in space. So I want to sell this watch, but I only want to sell it to you." So I said, "Wow. Mention your price and I will buy it." And I had other X33s that are all sold because I only need one. And this is this one because, it was the watch of my hero astronaut from the Netherlands who flew in the Space Shuttle mission in 85. Yeah.
Wow.
So super cool watch. It's very worn. It's very, it actually has been like properly used by them. So I had a battery change every once in a while, but that's it. And I do wear it because it's a fun watch.
Just again quickly, the new Mars timer, the X33. I don't know if you've had hands on with that. How does that compare with the original one that you have?
The X33 was actually introduced or launched. Nice wording. At one of our Speedy Tuesday events. Omega thought, hey, let's do a Speedy Tuesday event, and we will launch a new watch there, which was the Mars timer. And we actually did that at the same ESA Space Center where the astronaut got this watch in 1998. So that was very cool for me personally. The Mars timer, there was a lot of misconception about the watch because people think, but you can't make a watch with a battery with a lifetime of 2 years and go back and forth to Mars. But the Mars timer is not meant to go to Mars. The Mars timer is for scientists and astronauts that has projects on Mars. With the Mars rover, they want to know where it is and where it's going and when it will be at that position. And there's no magnetic field on Mars. So they have to do everything by coordinates. So you need to have proper time. So with the Mars timer, you can do that. You can properly time the real time on Mars. And then you can also make the calculation where the Mars rover will be in so many days or hours from now and on which specific location. Also, the watch was very funny. The watch was not pushed by Omega. The watch was a request from the scientists and astronauts from the European Space Agency, which had the X-33 Skywalker. So this is the third generation of X-33s. And they loved it so much that they started to write a manual of their perfect X-33, including the functionality for the Mars missions. So they wrote a new manual for the watch, for the Skywalker actually. Then they went to Omega and they said, hey, can you update the Skywalker with this functionality? And they tried, but the processor or the memory, I don't know what's inside, was not capable to doing these heavy calculations. So they needed to develop a new movement, which they did together with ETA, of course. And the guys from ETA were very, very fanatical about it. And they started coding in assembly, like machine language, to get all the functionality in. And so it was really a project, triggered by ESA scientists and astronauts who did it in their free time. They were sitting at their kitchen tables, writing a new manual for a watch that did not exist. And with that manual, they went to Omega. It's a super cool watch, but you have to explain it right. And I think what Omega did wrong in this case is they showed it they teased with it on Instagram. Something will be coming, and it will be on the Speedy Tuesday, and it's this and that. And then people were a bit, oh, it's an X-33 and it's 7K and yada yada yada, and it doesn't even work on Mars. No, but that's not the case. What I feel that Omega should have done is, hey, you can't buy this watch. This is a Mars timer for people from ESA, from the European Space Agency. So we don't push it in our catalog. You cannot buy it online or in a boutique. But if you're interested, send us an inquiry on how to get it. And then we might sell you one, or we will sell you one. But I would keep it a bit more, hey, it's a tool watch by astronauts for astronauts. And if you really want to have one, you can buy one. But it's not something you can find in every boutique, basically. So I would have marketed or communicated a little bit different than what they did, because it's all about managing expectations. If you come up with teasers and say, oh, Tuesday we'll do something cool, then everyone is excited. Everyone has their credit card in their hand, all the Speedmaster collectors. Then you come with an X-33, which is so niche.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, thanks for that, RJ.
It's a very cool watch. So, yeah.
Okay.
So,
yes.
Number three.
Number three. This was our first collaboration watch with NOMOS. It's a world timer, or as they say in Germany, Weltzeit Uhr. And I really have a weak spot for NOMOS for many years. And also here, just like Oris, I never bought one. But in this case, because most NOMOS watches are just too small for my wrists. And the only watch that will really fit me is the Zurich World Timer, or Weltzeit Uhr. But for me, they were always a little bit too plain. They were all white, or all blue, or all black. And I feel with this one-eyed panda, I think we made it a little bit more funky, and like a little orange arrow on there. And there's The Hague for our time zone instead of Paris. So we made this watch together with them. It's basically a different dial, of course, and a different engraving on the case back. But it's really a NOMOS that I enjoy wearing, that I enjoy having. For me, this is the NOMOS that I can actually wear and enjoy. A super cool project. Very nice people at NOMOS. They are really willing to think along. We only did 25. That was held against us when we released it. And I can imagine, but you also have to understand, we purchase all these watches. it's not consignment, or it's not that we get these watches from the brands and what we sell we will pay. No, we buy these watches from them, we stock them, so it's a huge financial risk for us as well. And for me, NOMOS, this is a €4,500 watch, even a little bit more. And then buying 25 of them is quite that's quite something for us. And for NOMOS, I was not sure if this is the price for a NOMOS watch. I think it's more on the higher end for NOMOS. So we thought, let's do 25. Let's go with 25. Let's see how it goes. So we did, and we sold out in 30 seconds. And then people start to bitch and complain, and I get it. I totally get it. Man, that's very true. But if you know everything up front, we would all be Bitcoin millionaires, right?
Yeah.
So it's also sometimes the risk you take. But we put on a waiting list, so people registered to the wait list, and we said, okay, we'll try to do something cool next year again. So this year we did another one, which is also a world timer with a different color code. It is midnight blue or royal blue, very dark blue. The little house for the world time became a windmill because it's a little bit Dutch. The color code is just different, came on a different strap, and we decided to do 100. We asked for more, but NOMOS said no, because we also need the movement for our own stock. So we can only do 100 for you. So we did 100, and that sold out in 90 seconds. But it was the maximum that we could do. So there was also nothing more we could do. But yeah, I really enjoy these watches. For me, the new one was perhaps a little bit too similar for this one. And also, I don't have all the resources in the world to just purchase any watch that I want. But yeah, I really enjoy and like this watch. And I really like the brand as well, I have to say.
Wow,
brilliant.
Excellent.
Yeah.
A really quick question on my side is on the collaboration aspect. I imagine you get approached by many brands wanting to do something with you.
Yep.
What's important for you when you look at a collaboration? Because it's a lot more than just putting a brand on the dial, right? What level of control and detail, do you like to have from that?
Yeah, if it's only a change of dial color, for example, it depends on the brand, perhaps. Hey, if you can do a Rolex with an orange dial, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But it really depends a little bit on the brand, but it also depends a little bit on, is it a watch that we would buy ourselves? And all the watches do not have to be for me personally, because we were with a team of more than 20 people. But if someone is super enthusiastic or super passionate about a certain watch that I personally don't care about, but he or she cares about, I'm fine with it. But it should be like, someone really needs to be passionate about this brand and about this watch, and it should fit our audience. We can do a Frank Muller watch, but I think that's not our audience. We can do perhaps a Jacob & Co watch. That's definitely not our audience. But we can do an Oris, we can do a NOMOS, we can do an Omega, we can do a Longines or a Breitling, or all these watches. I think that's could be a very perfect fit. It depends a little bit on the model, and if we see a fit with our audience, and if we also see that the price point is fit. So we don't only need to make watches that are 2,000 or 4,000. We also did a Zapek of 20K. We did a Louis Monet of 30K, but it needs to be right for that watch and right for that type of audience. We don't exclude brands basically, but it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
So it needs to be something that we would buy, or that we know, hey, our community really loves this brand or really loves this watch. Then let's give it a try. But it needs to be good. We don't want to make too many concessions. Sometimes you have to make concessions because parts are too expensive to create, or it's just not possible to do. Then sometimes you have to make a concession. But if it's not too much concessions and we can really stick to our initial idea, why not? But it all comes from us. It all comes from an idea from us.
Brilliant. No, sounds awesome.
Excellent.
So watch number 4, right?
Watch number 4.
Already on the last watch.
Yes, it's and I like this conversation because it's two persons with the Omega, 2 persons with the Rolex. So I also have a Rolex here. I also briefly showed it. It's an Oysterquartz Datejust. It's from my year of birth. It's from 1977. It's a single dial, which means it doesn't have the chronometer text, which later models had. It has a single line that just say Oysterquartz. And to me, a Datejust, whether it's an Oysterquartz or a normal Datejust, I like to have it in two-tone. because for me, a Datejust in two-tone is just, man, it was meant to be like that a little bit. I have an old Datejust 1600, which is steel and white gold, but I think the yellow gold and steel, I think that's that typical Datejust kind of vibe. And I really like this. I really like the Oysterquartz. I also like the Oysterquartz Day Date in yellow gold or white gold, because I like the shape. The shape is different. It's very 70s. It's very Genta-ish. It's very cool. And I think also the success of the Tissot PRX, for example, shows that Rolex could do another Oysterquartz style case. I'm not sure if they want to do quartz movements again, but they could do this shape of case. I think they had one reference. Is it 1530 or 1630? I don't know. They did a mechanical Datejust also in this case shape at some point. I think it just really looks cool. It's a cool watch. And I think Rolex is a cool brand. I don't like how the whole distribution thing is going. I don't like the rubbery stuff and so on and so on. But in the end, these are really good watches. The product as such, man, you can hit nails with them in the wall with these watches. They're like properly built watches by Rolex. So I don't have any hate or dislike against Rolex. It's just the whole atmosphere around it that I dislike. But lovely. It's a nice brand. Also nice people at Rolex. I have to say we have a good relationship with Rolex. Always nice. But yeah, I like these vintage pieces. I have some other Rolexes as well. Sea Dweller that I wear a lot. Yachtmaster, Day Date, and the Datejust. Old Submariner. I think all cool watches.
So, RJ, the two-tone, it's a very 70s kind of, being an 80s kid growing up in the 80s, I love the two-tone. It just reminds me of just the films at that time and just everything. What is it to you that makes you like there's this a vintage cool, almost not trashy, but there's a kind of a cool about it that just separates it from any other era memory in my mind.
Yeah, anyway. So I think it used to be a little bit tacky, gold steel, and I think it goes for every watch in gold steel. But for Datejust, for me, it's the Datejust for me in general is a bit of the mother of all modern wristwatches, right? Yeah. And I think gold steel gives it a little bit of extra. And I have the same with the 80s and the 90s. I have the same with all the Ebels, the 1911s, and with the Sport Wave bracelets. I love them in gold and steel because they give contrast. The Omega Constellations from that time, the Manhattans and the Constellation 95. I think after that it went a bit downwards, but the 80s and 90s constellations in gold steel, I think it's just a bit extra. It gives a bit more contrast. It's just, but also the GMT-Master, the root beers and the Clint Eastwoods and whatever nicknames they have. I think it's just cool to have them in gold and steel. The only gold and steel Rolex that I don't like is the Submariner. They also nicknamed it the Clown at the time, and later on, I think the later one with the blue dial. But that's not for me. But I think the Datejust, it's just nice, and it also, like you, is a bit nostalgia because in the 80s and 90s when you saw these movies and you had these guys wearing these Datejusts, for example, it was always gold steel. Yeah,
and they're really cool guys wearing them. It wasn't just the bit part characters; it was always the main man and stuff. So.
No, I think that was not there, and I'm not sure what the hip hop guys were wearing back then. But I think that was also more. It was also. I think rap or hip hop was not as mainstream back then as it is today. So there was not much focus on them. I think that changed later on, and also I think with social media and stuff, I think that ruined a lot for us as watch collectors and enthusiasts. That also suddenly people who have nothing with watches but are all into labels and buying luxury brands or want to be like someone else that they're not and mimic them and wear what they are wearing. I think that ruined a lot for us when it comes to watches, whether it's the Rolex or AP. I remember buying my first AP Royal Oak in 2006 for €5,000. I bought a 1522 Jumbo in 2009 or late 2008 for 7,000. So it's, man, I think, it's a little bit ruined, and we will not go back to that level, I feel. So we have to look at different brands. And I think that's where Tudor comes in. That's where Oris comes in with the good propositions. That's where NOMOS comes in. So there's enough other stuff to look at.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Yes. Thank you so much. We could probably do another 3 shows with all your wonderful collection by the sounds of it. All those Rolexes you just mentioned a minute ago, plus everything else, the APs and everything. Thank you so much for giving up your time and coming and giving an insight into just a tiny little percentage of what will sound like a wonderful watch collection. I think we're really honoured as a show to have you, as on the show, twice in like less than 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed our previous conversation in London. I think this is super nice, and I like it when it's really about watches. And sometimes I perhaps go a little bit overboard, and I also don't want to be snobbish, but because a lot of these watches I bought like 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
So it was a different time, and I'm not a seller, so I tend to keep the stuff that I bought.
It's the best way to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell your knowledge and your enthusiasm are special.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next level.
Passion. Yeah.
Passion is
Thanks
there.
for having me.
Thank you so much.
I truly enjoyed it. I also could ask you a lot of questions about your watches and why you bought it. So perhaps I should come on another time where I ask you these questions.
We come on Fratello. We come on Fratello channel.
You can interview us for Fratello. We'd love that. We'd love that.
Come to The Hague and we do a nice video.
Okay, be careful what you say there. We might turn up.
We'll take you up on
Excellent.
that. Thank you. Excellent. Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this very, very special show. We will see you again soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
See you very soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.